quick intro. Teal Enterprises is based here in Montana in a remote location on a ranch we started outside of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. And our initial goal is to locate and identify depredation events, primarily with large carnivores, for example, grizzly bears. And this is something that happens frequently on ranches that are in this area and in the greater Rocky Mountain region and greater Yellowstone region. And so where we start is with the technology, education, and agriculture and landscape community around this area. And we are aiming to pair innovation and the data that we collect to help maintain land ethics and to reclaim a more resilient way of ranching and eventually movement and coexistence with the landscape and ranchers. I'm going to switch to the other one here. Okay, so the initial problem that we deal with in this area is that there's few working solutions that actively support resilient diversity of wildlife, livestock, and people, meaning solutions that focus as a whole on the ecosystem, not just the ranch, but also come from the ranch and ranching life and farm life in a way where they help the average rancher. And in this area, we have state and federal compensation for livestock loss due to depredation. And so, the problem here is that the investigations are dangerous, they're subjective, and they're expensive. And so when you do have a loss, in order to identify that, you need to kind of execute a plan that can potentially be hazardous to your health and is difficult to achieve. As we go forward, there's more and more humans that are inhabiting this environment and these kind of wild places. And we have increasing conflict with these large predators also. And so really, the conventional system of ranching has become kind of cumbersome for the average rancher in a way where it costs him more money and takes his profits down. And so what we want to do primarily is focus on this idea of helping a rancher identify these depredation events through an ear tag that runs on a low frequency radio network that would span a ranch upwards of 6 to 10 kilometers or more, and give him a window into what's happening every day with his cattle. And we're going to go to another slide here. So the idea would be we would have chips. Well, the idea is, I'll show you a small working model we have. We have chips embedded in ear tags that are collecting accelerometer data, GPS data. We'll be moving on to microclimate data and also wellness data. And so what we can do with all this technology is we can have an artificial intelligence model that will alert you when something is happening with your cow. For example, if he's moving, or when a depredation event may be occurring, or hopefully before it's occurring, so that we can mitigate these conflicts. The idea also is that we would then be able to continue to track all this data, keep it in a database where you'd have lifetime wellness of a cow, which would help you determine where your cow is grazing, which would help you determine how to better use your landscape in order to be more sustainable, in order to help sequester carbon into the soil by making sure that your cattle are grazing actively in more than one area, to make sure that they're grazing in the areas that you want to move them around, right? And also the climate data that we'll be collecting can be useful towards all sorts of future endeavors for other companies and partnerships who are looking for this kind of data in this kind of ecosystem. I'm going to go to one more here. Oops, sorry, wrong one. 10. Okay. So currently we're testing our equipment on the Anderson Ranch in the Tom Minor Basin. And the idea that we're currently working with is a very simple model where we're collecting data and we are injecting it into an artificial intelligence model. And we're currently training it with both video data and accelerometer data. And, this is an ongoing project where we'll be able to determine certain events such as stress on the cow, a cow moving, a cow eating, a cow sleeping, and a cow being possibly preyed upon by a carnivore. Maybe it doesn't seem like this is so important off the top of your head, but what we realize out here is that in order to better use the landscape, this is something that needs to be resolved, because first and foremost, there's a lot of grazing land that is inaccessible due to fear of depredation events. Also, we need to have a better resilience between ranchers and these carnivores in order to help protect cattle and make ranching more affordable, and also to keep the ecosystem intact with large carnivores, which we have learned is very important for the surrounding ecosystem, to have these animals around and not be afraid of them. And so our main goal is to deal with this conflict in a way that is very hands-on for a rancher, where he can very easily see and understand what is going on, and it will make his life easier and more profitable. And then we also have a large goal of helping to create a more sustainable environment, helping to create a better place for the carnivores to live as well, and helping to bring about change in the way that we see all this stuff happening and going forward in the future, as far as what people can and can't do in these environments.
Hey, can I interrupt you there for a second? Hate to cut you off. We're beyond the minutes.
Oh,
I've got a couple of questions here for you.
Great.
So the first one is, what is the cost of teal tags per 100 head?
So we're hoping to keep our cost between $10 and $15 per cow, and then that's individual cost. So you'd be for 100, right? You can do the math there. So per 100 head, we're looking at $1,500, there would also be potential initial setup fees that we're hoping to be in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. There's also going to be a small fee for a monthly cost for maintaining the data, which would hopefully be in the $10 to $20 range. So, and this is part of the testing going forward, is we want to start. Right now, we're working with one ranch. We have another ranch in mind, and we want to really see what kind of cost is going to be effective to go forward.
Great, thanks. So I think the follow-up question to that, somebody asked 10 to 20 per head, roughly, is what it looks like.
Yeah, and looking across the market, that seems to be where everything's at. But we want to be obviously as low cost as possible, and so we're hoping to be 10 to 15. I think 10 to 20 is the bar at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Another question here: what network technology does Teal use? What satellite system?
So far, we're using GLONASS GPS data and that kind of stuff just for location. We're using LoRa networks for this accelerometer data. So the concept is we would set up a tower that runs off solar power that is autonomous in the correct location on your ranch so that we get the broadest spectrum possible. And then we would outfit the cows with tags, and they would be ear tags. Currently, we're working with collars, but we'll be moving to ear tags. And then across 6 to 10 kilometers, we would be broadcasting to a gateway through a low frequency radio network, which then uploads to the cloud. And, the other goal is to make sure that we're doing some of these calculations as much as possible on the edge, meaning that if you lose internet connection, we can still maintain the network and we can still maintain the data.